Welcome to the video for lesson 4-5, day 2. Today we're going to talk about adding expressions with geometry. Let's look at this first example together. In this first one, it tells us to find the perimeter of the triangle below. Now, in order to answer this question, I have to know what perimeter means. So again, I'm going to ask you to highlight perimeter, and underneath that, I'm going to ask you to write to add all the sides. So in this case, we're looking at a triangle. So there's going to be 3 sides, and I'm going to make sure that I add up. To start off, I'm just going to write it exactly how I see it. So I have the 3x minus 3 being here, plus the 2x plus 9 here, and then the 5x plus 5x here. So that looks like this. And you can see I use parentheses. So I have a parenthesis, 3x minus 3, close my parentheses, plus parenthesis 2x plus 9, close my parentheses, plus parentheses 5x, close my parentheses. So there's an imaginary 1 in front here. There's nothing really that I see, but if it was a 0, there'd be nothing at all. So there's a 1 here. 1 times the 3x is 3x, and 1 times negative 3 is negative 3, so it doesn't change anything. So I'm just going to rewrite this without the parentheses. Same thing here. It's a positive 1. Multiplying by 1 changes nothing. And here it's a positive 1. So I'm just going to rewrite all of my terms, but without the parentheses. So exactly the same terms. I have the 3x minus 3 plus 2x plus 9 plus 5x. Now it's just like what we've been doing before. We need to find our like terms and we need to highlight them. So to start off, I'm going to highlight. I have a 3x in front, and I have a plus 2x. Remember, we're highlighting the sign in front so we know if it's positive or negative. And then I have the plus 5x. So I'm going to put those all together. 3x plus 2x plus 5x gives me 10x. So that's my variable, keeping it in standard form. That's why I did those first. Next, I see my constant, negative 3, and a positive 9. Those don't have a variable, makes them a constant. So I'm going to put those together. Negative 3 plus 9 is a positive 6. Now, the other piece of this is it was a real life situation with a triangle, so I had a label there. They were all centimeters. So in my answer, I'm going to include centimeters so that I have a label that helps me understand what the question was. It's not just that we have this term here, we have these terms, we also have a label. So 10x plus 6 centimeters. All right, let's try another example together. Question number 2, I see again, it says find the perimeter. So we're highlighting perimeter, and underneath that, we're going to add all the sides. This time we're talking about a pentagon here. So a pentagon, and we have a picture, has 5 sides. So when I go to add this, it might be a little harder to make sure I don't miss a side. So it might help you to highlight the sides as we write them. So I'm going to start with my 3x, and then before I move on, I'm going to highlight that 3x so I remember I already put that in my perimeter expression. So I have a 3x, and then I'm going to add, the next thing I see, I'm going around it, is a 3x. You could go in any order you wanted. That's just the order I chose. So now I'm going this way, a 3x, and then I'm going to add the next thing I see is a 2x, and I'm keeping the parentheses just so I know that these are all different sides. That's why I'm using parentheses here. And then I have plus. At the bottom, I see an x plus 4, and then I'm going to highlight that one, and finally I have the 2x again on the side there, so I'm going to add my 2x. Everything's in parentheses so that I know that these are all the sides. Okay, I just kind of moved that over a little bit so you could see I don't want that 5x that was in the previous example to confuse you at all. So again, I see that these are all just being added. There's no negatives or anything that I really have to worry about distributing. So we can just copy this all down without using parentheses anymore. And I added that last side too, so I needed to highlight that. So I had 5 sides here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's all my sides that were in my picture. So now I rewrote them without the parentheses because I don't need them to group together anymore. I'm actually trying to combine what I can and find a final answer here. So now I look, and I'm looking for like terms, just like what we were doing before. So I see a 3x plus 2x plus x. Those are all x's. And then I also have this plus 2x at the end. So if I add those all up, and you can use your calculator. Remember, you cannot put variables in, but you can add these in your calculator to help you. So we end up with 11x. And then I only have one constant. Remember, you can highlight that too. I like to highlight everything just so I know I didn't forget something. But you could keep it unhighlighted if you prefer, as long as you can see the difference between the x and my constant. Now, I left a little extra space because there's one more thing I have to add in here. This question was a real life question, so you could put YD if you wanted, but I just wrote out what that means. It means yards. So the final answer is 11x plus 4 yards. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, now number 3 doesn't have a picture to go with it. So I think that this is going to be more important to have our highlighter and make sure we're highlighting some key things in here. We're talking about a rectangle, and the rectangle has side lengths that are 2x minus 5 meters, 2x plus 6 meters, and we need to write a linear expression in simplest form to represent the perimeter. So when we're looking for the perimeter, what are we doing? We're looking to add up all the sides. Now, in order to answer this question, I want to draw myself a shape first because I'm a visual learner. I like to have a shape to go along with my word problems. So I have a rectangle. So I'm going to draw myself a rectangle here, and I'm going to put the side length, 2x minus 5 and 2x plus 6, on the two sides. So they only gave me two sides, but they did tell me that this was a rectangle, so that means that I can put the 2x minus 5 and the 2x plus 6 on the other sides of the rectangle as well. Okay, so now I've put all of my sides are labeled. So we drew the rectangle, and I gave myself the perimeter with all those different sides. Now I need to find the perimeter. So we need to write an expression that will find the perimeter. Well, to find the perimeter, I need to add up all the sides. So if you want to use the highlighting, you can. If you want to just add up all the sides and count them at the end, however you want to do it so that you make sure you don't forget a side. So I'm going to start at the top, the 2x plus 6, and then I'm going to add, going around the figure, 2x minus 5, and then I'm going to do that again because it was 2x plus 6 and 2x minus 5. So I rewrote it again, the 2x plus 6 and the 2x minus 5. So I've added up 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. The parentheses help me know that there were 4 different sides. Okay, so do I really need the parentheses though? Is there anything being distributed where I'm like subtracting or I need to worry about multiplying it by something? No, they all have a 1 in front. So I'm just going to rewrite it without the parentheses. Okay, so now I can see I just have the same thing without my parentheses. 2x plus 6, 2x minus 5, 2x plus 6 into the 2x minus 5. Now it's just like what we've been doing before. We're looking for like terms. I see a 2x plus a 2x plus another 2x plus another 2x. So when I add those all together, I end up with 8x. And then I'm looking for my constants. I see a plus 6 minus 5 plus 6 minus 5. So when I do all that, 6 minus 5 plus 6 minus 5, we can put that all in our calculator. We end up with plus 2. And now I didn't put a label, and I probably should have. They told me in the question that these were meters. But whenever I'm dealing with a real life situation, I'm always kind of going back and thinking, well, wait a minute, did they give me a label so I know what I'm talking about here? And they did. They told us that this was going to be meters. So now I'm just going to add it into my answer. So 8x plus 2 meters. Okay, now if I look down below, it says that they want me to find the actual perimeter if the value of x is 12 meters. So now they're telling me, okay, x isn't an unknown anymore. It's actually 12 meters. So I don't need to have the x anymore in my expression. I'll bring down my expression first. I already simplified it to the 8x plus 2. If you wanted, you could go back to the original. You could always use the original to check, but I'm just going to use my simplified version. 8x plus 2, so I have 8 times 12 plus 2. I just plugged in. They told me what x was. It's 12. X is a little word that means equals. So I put an equal sign below that. I usually underline it twice, put that little equal sign so that I know equal is means equal. So x equals 12, so I just replaced it. 8 times 12 plus 2, you could put in your calculator, we end up with 98. And because it's a real life question and they gave me a label, I know that it's not just 98, it's 98 meters. So make sure you have the meters there. All right, let's try the next page. All right, this next question here tells us that we have a table and it shows the points scored by the Panthers during a basketball game. We want a linear expression in simplest form to represent the total points scored for the entire game. So if I'm looking for a total and all those points put together, I know that I need to add those points together. So I'm going to keep the quarters together first to make sure that I didn't forget any of my quarters. So I'm going to start by writing the first quarter. They ended up with 2x minus 6. And then I'm adding the next quarter, which was the x plus 2. So move that over a little bit. So I'm adding the x plus 2. And then I'm adding my 2x, and then I'm adding my x minus 6. So that's all I can count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Now I'm just going to replace in my x's, I'm going to sneak in that 1 so that I know what that actually means is I have 1x there. So I'm going to sneak in that 1. Now, I really don't need any of those parentheses because they're all just kind of multiplying by 1 in front. There's no negatives or numbers that I need to distribute. So I am going to write it all again without my parentheses. Okay, so now it's just like the questions we've been doing. I'm looking for my like terms. I see I have a 2x plus 1x, remember that sign in front, plus 2x plus 1x. Those are all my like terms. When I add those up, remember you can use your calculator, but you can't put the x in there. When I add those up, I get 6x. Then I'm going to look for my constants. So now I see a minus 6, and I see a plus 2, and a minus 6. When I put those in my calculator, I end up with minus 10. And I added the word points because this was a real life situation that we were talking about. Then they told me I was talking about points. So 6x minus 10 points. Okay, let's move down a little bit. The next part tells me if the value of x is 10. Now, what does x mean? This is your secret message part. I want you to put an equal sign under the word is. So an equal sign under is. So if the value of x is 10, what are the total points? So we're looking for total points. Now it's not an unknown anymore. I'm going to bring my answer from the previous down. So I had 6x minus 10. Only now I don't need the x anymore because I know what x is. X is 10. X equals 10. So 6 times 10 minus 10. And then I can put that in my calculator, or we could do step by step. 6 times 10 is 60. Minus 10 ends up giving me 50. So the answer is 50 points. And then just make sure that you added a circle around your answer there. Hopefully this all was pretty straightforward. We'll go over it more in class. Have a wonderful night. Bye.